guys, welcome back, and it's episode 25 of the Ethos podcast, where you get all the old man rambling and shit talk with Simon and Duck. Today's episode, we've called it "Fishing for Events." Now, that could be almost like a triple entendre because I had an idea of what this episode was going to be about. Duck thought he knew, and then started talking about Tau and devilfish. And then we kind of end up
not much actual fishing.
yeah, and then eventually, we'll get somewhere in between. It could be catfishing, like you go to events to pick up. I won't say chicks, but guys. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, that's my rambling intro. I was asleep up until about 40 minutes ago, because I was an old man having dinner and falling asleep in front of the computer. So my wonderful co-host. There you go. There's my brain wandering off into the bushes right now. Mr. Hayden Walduck, how you been, mate?
Good, mate. I'm always good when we do these little shit talk sessions with about 60 seconds of 40k talk in there. So make sure you're eagle-eared to spot the hammers talk, and then we'll swiftly return to our shit talking. But no, I'm good.
Yeah, look, and I do apologize in advance, not so much for our listeners, but for you. Just I'm going to be a little bit less coherent than normal. I've already stuffed up for 3 times, and it's 2 minutes in.
This podcast is going to be a mess.
Oh, it's going to be great. Anyway, all right. I am happy though. I am on holidays as of last week. My first week on holidays, and I did more work than I've done in a whole bunch of time. More physical work, we'll say. I dug trenches along the side of my house to fix up some drainage issues I've been having. So yes, last week I was like in a prison camp style, just dig, a chop.
Look, I can't imagine anything worse, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. My dad was laughing at me because, just for those who I haven't already mentioned, he's a builder in real life, and as opposed to a builder in Minecraft. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but he, for the bit that goes from like my fence out, we hire the digger. And he was laughing to himself. He's like, we could have just got the digger for all of it, and you wouldn't have to dig by hand for 3 days. And then I said, oh, look, it's fine. I needed some exercise. And he goes, yeah, I was going to suggest it, but then, you kind of do need exercise.
Yeah, thanks, Dad.
That's right. I love the backhanded honesty. It's almost like, Chinese grandmothers is like, hey, you're fat. What's going on? It's just straight for the guts.
Like the Arab parents are like, you got to learn to cook because your looks not so good.
Very shortly we're going to get into the whole Borat. We're just going to say, great success.
Very nice.
So that's what's happening in my life. Holidays, but mainly, doing work. The outside of my house looks a little bit like a bomb has hit it. Playing the occasional game of 40k, but just like this podcast, it's only very occasionally. What about you, mate?
Usually once a month.
Yeah. What about you? How's everything been going?
I was pretty neck deep into some 40k prep for the event that we will chat about in this episode. And on the work front, I sort of haven't done a full 5-day week of work since like February, so it's really not that bad.
Was that February 2020 or?
If almost. Nah, it's just I don't have much longer left at work, so I'm sort of just patching up holes and doing handovers here and there. So very low stress work at the moment, which is nice. But that's going to change working in banking and end of financial year coming up. So probably going to have a pretty flat month or so, and then I'll be free man.
I'm keen to see what the next chapter of your life is, mate. I've only known you
Yeah.
as working in banking, so I'm just like, what does Walduck, Mister Walduck, look like? You know, outside of that.
Well, that could come down to our illustrious listeners if they would like to take 2 minutes to like, subscribe to our podcast so you can get updates and share amongst your friends so it can help with our visibility. That would be splendid, and I'll buy you a cookie.
Yeah. The cookie has an asterisk next to it. It is a pretend cookie that he imagines to you. It is not a real cookie.
It's like the cookie that TikTok gives you and you never clear from your cookies. Or one of those sort of cookies. I'll be watching your search history, Simon.
I'm pretty sure your cookies that never go away are called venereal diseases, and they definitely never come away.
Wow. I'll be taking auditions for a new co-host as of tomorrow.
I'm keen. I'm keen, mate. Yeah, it's you won't know what to do without me. I'll be gone for a month. You guys are gonna be like, "Where's Simon?" Probably like 4 weeks in, and like I arrive back, and it's like, "Hey, how's everyone going?" Oh, you were gone? What the fuck?
Like, what do you mean you're gone? No one even knew.
That's right. Awesome. All right. Well, I think we've filibustered enough for just general crap. Now we're going to filibuster enough for other stuff. So, some new things. I know we're not really a podcast about current events and things that happened even this century, but some actual new things that are coming up on the horizon has me slightly excited, about as excited as I get nowadays. Um, from we'll say Games Workshop and 40K, and that's the kind of not Leviathan, but whatever the new version of Leviathan, like the missions and stuff like that. Now, I don't care about the
Nexus,
missions. Yeah, I don't care about the missions. I care about the replacement of the I can't even remember because I don't fucking use them. What do they call the gambits? Are they called gambits?
They're called gambits, yeah.
Yeah, fuck. I honest to God have not used it once. I did it in a practice game where I said, "Oh, I could do a gambit thing right now." I looked through them, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, maybe." And then I go, "Oh, let's just try." I drew, like you have to discard one, and I discarded the one that I wanted to do, and I said, "Yeah, I'm never doing this again."
And you just kept living your life like everyone else that tries their first gambit.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, I was going
Like,
to say,
well, anyway,
yeah, I was going to
just
make
back to
a
their life.
completely different tangent, but let's not go there. So, Gambit's terrible. I don't think anyone has legitimately used it and felt good about it. Secret missions, however, actually look really good, and there's not only is there a non-zero chance that people will be using it, there's a non-zero chance that I use them multiple times a game. I've got a little bit of a spiel about that, but I just want to kind of throw that out there and get your thoughts if you've had even 2 seconds of thoughts about these secret missions.
Sort of read through the article the Games Workshop put up, and the big focus was on battle line. And at the moment, I'd read the Kroot Carnivores data sheet like 30 times. So I was just like, battle line Kroot, yeah, battle line Kroot, yeah, just on repeat. That's all I took away from that article.
Nice. Okay. Well, for me, what I liked about it is because how I like playing, especially my Dark Elder, is the kind of end of game backswing. So, I mean, some games you can try and dominate early and then just hold on for dear life while you're getting tabled, and that definitely does happen. But other games, you do the like Nick Nanavati style. Past the first 2 turns, just set up for a huge backswing at the end, and you do like nothing, and you're just posturing, and you score your 5 or 10 on primary. And if you remember back in like 9th ed or even 8th and 7th ed, you could kind of do that and almost like win the game on the last turn or 2 turns. And it's theoretically possible to do that even in a normal game. Like some missions allow that, and some sets of secondaries either fixed, or if you just happen to draw the right cards, like, you could set yourself up for a turn 3, 4, or 5. What's it called? Capture any outpost. You happen to draw it. Boom. You get like a 30-point swing. Right? I love that idea. Just posturing, trying to go second as much as possible, and then going, you know what? All right, let's turn the gas on. I've got a good, multi-charge. I can hit, 5 different units. I can battle shock so there's no interrupts. My opponent has no fight first, etc., etc. Boom. And then half their army explodes. That's actually a really exciting way to play. It's maybe not the best way to play, but it is an exciting way to play. And the secret missions actually allow that. The gambits don't, but the secret missions do. Because gambits is, by turn 3, you have to say, I'm getting absolutely dunked on. I can't score primer anymore, and so therefore I have to go for this, 1 in a million score. I rolled 12 because I've got a guy standing in the corner. Which is pretty much what happens, right? Now, the secret missions, it's like you can keep scoring up to 20. So let's say you get turn 1 and 2, you're just getting a 5-point, primary. If your turn 3, 4, and 5 is another 5, then a 10 and a 10 or something like that, right? You can cap back up to 20. Plus, then hopefully you're getting your secret mission, right? Which a lot of them are very, very doable, especially if you're kind of setting yourself up for that big hit. And now you're at 40, and there's a lot of like priority. Is it priority targets? The mission where you're getting like 2 on your backfield, and then 5 in the middle.
Yeah, one of the worst missions in the book.
Yeah, but no. How often? Like I've gone through my score sheets over the last 3 months, and priority target especially, that it can be and is in general a very low scoring primary game. Like there was one game I won and I only got 35. Can you imagine? Like you're actually going to almost like both of us, both me and you, want to be drawing by turn. I think it's you pick it a turn end of turn 2 or whenever you pick it, but it's whoever's winning can't pick the secret mission. So we want to be like purposely keeping our scores low so we can go to secret missions to get the 40.
Oh no, walked off the objective by mistake.
Yeah. But this is what I mean. Like that's exciting. That's interesting. Like that's like an actual.
Yeah, I think that'll be a nice shake up to the game because this format's just over a year or so in, and it's getting a bit stale. There's some missions that are a bit shit. Gambits that don't really get used, and some of the secondaries could probably be tweaked as well.
And realistically, the twist is so. I like the idea. But the twist is so unused in competitive games and like in actual tournaments. And when they do the twists, it's usually linked to some sort of primary mission. Like it. I don't know. I don't think TOs, and I'm not giving shit on them. I don't think they've been. It's not that they're not using the mission set to its full effect. It's more the mission set options don't allow or don't encourage like really balanced competitive games outside of like almost like the set ones that GW came out with, you know what I mean? And even then only a subset of those have been worked out to be good or at least semi-fair. I think that's like a whole episode in itself.
100%. Like priority targets only having 2 points for your home objective is pretty silly. And the objectives where they remove like turn 4 and turn 5, so you only got one objective in the middle, and your home one's worth nothing. Like they're just ridiculous missions that just throw spanners in the works. But I guess sometimes they're necessary because if you're just playing take and hold or just basic missions all day every day, it gets a bit boring, and it promotes a different type of meta.
Oh, absolutely. And I call them my training mission. You know, it's just like take and hold, chilling reign, and diagonal or quarters. Like I have played that exact setup, just with the different like heavy, medium, or light terrain sets on McGowan stuff. That's pretty much what I play 95% of my games, outside of TTS events or just playing with random people on TTS or something like that. That's my game, and I don't mind it. But
Like the white bread of 40k missions.
yeah. But I mean, it's good for training, like because you're doing like for like. So you're testing list one, then you test list two. It's the same mission, same layout. Or you when you do A/B testing, you're just trying to get rid of as many variables as possible, so you can actually see. It's like, imagine playing like fucking, what's the mission? Is it the ritual? It's the way you summon objectives.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so imagine trying to test your list. It's like one list you play on the ritual, and another one you play on priority targets. And you win one game, you lose the other, and you say, "Oh, well, that list is just shit." It's like, no, you just play two completely skewed games. And it's like the ritual, there was like 17 objectives, and priority targets, there was 5. Not even, sorry, no, 4.
You may as well play two different factions.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like it's really interesting. Like I have. Now, this is definitely not the episode 4, and we might push it. I might just pause it here because I could talk now for the next hour all about this. And what's funny is maybe we'll do it as a retrospective when the actual missions come out, like when we actually have had a bunch of games with the new pack, and then I can reflect back on the right now, because I've only, like, literally just as we're talking, it triggered to me. It's like, this is why I like the secret missions thing, because it means you can play the game differently every game, and you can't really do that nowadays, outside of it becoming a really skewed game. Like the ritual one is hugely skewing the priority targets, really skewing compared to a normal game. Normal game is you just sit on 2. Okay, well, you can sit on 2 in normal games and get 10. In priority targets, it's only 7. You do that for 5 turns, you only get 35. Like, or whatever it is. But you get the idea.
Four turns, but yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like, it's a much different mindset. Priority targets, you have to push, but if you got secret missions, now you don't, because you're going to get about the same score and just hold you 2. And now you can, Death Stars can work a bit better, or I don't know. I don't know. Just this whole inclusion is so much more interesting to me, and that's why I said I'm as excited as I can be with 40k.
Yes, but if people want to hear our thoughts on the new missions when they come out, then we'll maybe break our non-review rule and we'll review the new missions.
I just wrote myself a little note because old man brain. I'm gonna forget it.
Well, before you forget this, let's move on. You recently went to Josh's Gladiator team event. Tell us about that.
We did. All right. So we, I think it was like 2 weeks later, 2 or 3 weeks later, the real diehards went back for another round of team eventing. So the one that was in April, that was 140 people, and our team, we came first. And so we went back again, straight back into it. Slightly different team because you weren't there this time, but we had a replacement. Corey came in, and he was great. Now, I'll give him a bit of shit. Yeah, Michael's just as terrible as normal. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. Anyway, and yeah, so this time we only got 1 round loss. So when we won, we got a couple of draws, but we didn't actually lose any rounds. This one we got a round loss. It was a close one, but we got a round loss to Erik's team, who eventually came first. But I did, like myself, I did very, very well. I think I won all my games. Let me just double check. Yeah, you talk.
You're playing Jakari?
Yep. Playing Jakari. I changed up my list a little bit. So do you remember when I was talking to Chris, and I said I wanted to lean a lot more into the kind of fight first and skew into that for teams.
Yes.
And for the April event, I took some incubi, kind of almost like shamed into it. But this time I stuck to my guns. I went triple Core of the Archon, Succubus, and all that fun stuff. Like just lots of fight first, and I loved it. It was fantastic. I will just double check that what I just said is correct. Did I take the Succubus? Yes, I did. Yes, perfect. Yeah, so you know me, mate. Like this was Drakari list 18 that I took. I am
only
currently
18.
Yeah. Well, I'm currently playing list 22. Like I was on list 19 the day after this tournament. Yeah. So yeah, I went 5 units of fight first. Really skewing into the fight first concept, and saying that there's certain matchups I would be good at, be it orcs, world eaters, Thousand Suns, which I played a bunch more of again and beat, and a few other like that type of concept where I played the Blood Angels again. Mr. David Truman, we had a rematch again. And yeah, I really like it. The Scourges, they're still a pain in my butt. I like the concept of them. I like the idea of them. I don't like that they need to be babysat by Kronos and pain tokens for them to be even slightly effective. And that I then would have to red pretty much every Imperial Guard army, or maybe even an Elder army
for the indirect.
Yeah, with too much indirect, because then I would have to reserve them or babysit the fuck out of them. And so yeah, my current list, I've dropped all the Scourges and the Kronos, and I gave in. Oh, not gave in. I gave in. And I've followed Mr. Brian Lakeland, a friend of mine, and is a fellow Archon who has been doing really well with a big brick of Incubi in a Raider. So that's kind of what my current list is right now. I can't get
with the Ignore Overwatch.
Yeah, with the Ignore Overwatch. So I've still got the 6 Venoms, but I've also got a Raider, 10 Incubi, 2 Courts of the Archon, and then 4 individual units of Cabalites, which I split across, the 6 Venoms and a big Court and Foot and shit like that. Still have a whole bunch of characters, but no Scourges. And I am enjoying.
I can hear Chris Wright in New South Wales already. He's losing his mind.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm Chris. If you're listening to this, you can call me. You're bad. You probably already have, but that's okay. It's I've been enjoying this. I've played this a whole bunch now in the last 2 weeks, and because I'm running extra Cabalite units, I still have the kind of Darklands and Blasters and all that type of stuff in there, and I can kind of act like the jump, shoot, and scoot that the Scourges do, because you fly a Venom behind line of sight, you jump out, shoot, and then you jump back in the Venom. After at the end of the fight phase. It's like a poor man's Scourge, but they don't die because they're in the Venom, and they give sticky objectives to, even if they're in the Venom. I've just really enjoyed it. I just have so many more units, more chaff, more MSU. There's no easy targets. There's no, if you kill 4 models or 3 models of T3. You can just throw a couple more wounds. Well, that whole unit is now ineffective. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, and you can use the Venoms to sort of activation lock people out of taking your objectives, and
absolutely.
So some armies trying to dig a Venom or 2 out that are -1 to hit, and one of them has a 4-up imbo. It can be a bit of a pain in the ass for some people to dig off an objective.
Yeah, and especially if they're out of line of sight completely, because that's what I mean. Like you're not relying. The venoms are great damage, but you're not relying on them because you can, fly up to a building, jump through the building, like you're jumping out through the building, shoot whatever's behind that wall, and then jump back in the venom. And then they do their movement phase, and you move 6 inches back from the thing, and now they have to do like a 6-7 inch charge. Let's say they make it, but now they're completely out of position, and they've just killed the venom. That's it.
And when they're charging onto your venoms, you will typically have a court there to heroic them
Oh yeah,
to get extra movement and chunk down, OC on objectives.
you get it. You're picking up what I'm putting down, man. That's exactly what happened. Like in all my games, like since the tournament. That's right.
Well, it's funny you mention it because that's half the premise of how the Crute and Tau list was working. So
look at that setup. And we didn't even talk about this before. So we're just so in sync. We're like two women that happen just to be. No. I won't. I will continue back on this tournament.
Say we're more like two people that share one brain, but sure.
Oh yeah, like a Chogol. In Heroes of the Storm, there's a character where there's like two people, and there's one person moves and the other person does the attacks. I don't know if you know anything about Heroes of the Storm.
No, but which one of us would do the moving and which one would do the attacking?
Come on, man. Your guns, you would be punching, and with my legs and my sense of direction, unerring sense of direction, I am definitely moving.
That's why he's digging. That's why he's not hiring the diggers. It's he's doing it himself, so he can carry me around.
Pretty much, yeah. And for anyone who knows my escapades in Europe, I'm sure, again, they're saying, yes, he absolutely walks fast in the completely wrong direction. Yes.
But it's fast.
Yes, I get in the wrong spot, but very, very quickly. Yes, no. So I didn't lose a game, but I got 2 draws for the Gladiator Gaming May event. And I think this next list, without the Scourges, I'll be much more useful. I was already pretty useful in matchups, but I think I'll be even much more useful just because I had to read myself on things that I think I could have beaten, but just that the chance of me going second if I had deployed it or babysit it off and then for some reason I've missed something. I didn't like that feeling, and so I went, no, sorry, Scourges, you're off the team.
Cut.
Awesome.
Cut.
All right, there's a bunch of rambling about my Gladiator Gaming. Overall, as always, fantastic event. I don't think I heard any issues. I know, like in April, there was a bit of an issue from the kitchen, just for a couple of people. Not suggesting Michael had anything to do with this. It was definitely Michael. But saying
Michael's just not allowed lunch. He holds up the lunch service every single time.
Yeah. Well, I think it's actually a tactic to get him hangry, so he's actually focused and just wants to punch his opponent in the head. But this time, no issues with food. Everyone was happy, and it was really good to see that we still got. How many? I can't even remember how many teams there were, but there was. Yes, there wasn't 140 people, but there was still. I really wish I'd done some prep for this. How many people there were?
I think Josh said about 80-ish.
80, yeah.
There were 5-man teams, yeah.
So 80 divided by 5. Now I'm going to be doing maths on the pressure, which is I can't do. So that's 16. So 16 teams. That's still pretty good, man. An 80-man event, that's GT status, and that's literally, 2.5, or I think it was 3 weeks after a 140 event, with pretty much all the same people coming back. This is, honestly, and it kind of links a little bit to our main topic that we're talking about, but this is what I love about we'll say Queensland, but Brisbane or Southeast Queensland specifically. We have at least 80 fucking crazy diehards, and kind of a pool of at least 140 people who are keen enough to not just play 40k but play competitive 40k in a team environment. Like, I don't know, that I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, honestly. So.
Well, I mean, and then we had 2 singles events, within the 3 weeks following that sort of only got 30 odd players each. But as you can tell, we tend to focus more on team events in Queensland, because it helps us when it comes around to like ATC and WTC. Just gives us a bit more prep.
Yeah. So, perfect segue. Tell us, mate. What have you been up to on that? We've dropped hints about your escapades. Do some talking.
I'm doing some talking. So I sprouted my wings and I flew across to Perth. And you'd probably be asking, why are you going to Perth if there's all these events in Queensland? Well, for one, the Perth event had a ticket to the GW finals. And I thought, this is probably the only time I'll get a chance to go compete in an event that gives a ticket, since we don't, we're not lucky enough to have those events in Queensland. I'd hopefully like to see that change in the coming years. Because, you never want to compare when you go to other states or other people's events, but at the end of the day, we really spoiled in Queensland. The venue that Josh has got such a good relationship with, having ample parking, relatively close to everything, good, well-served lunches on time. The venue just having carpet and air conditioning, especially in Brisbane, is super important. And, when you go to other states' events that go back to playing in halls, where, Queensland, we haven't played in a scout hall or a public hall for years, it's definitely a different experience. But to throw a bit of a spanner in the works, there was also playing under the GW format, as you have to do for those events that gain a ticket. So I had to learn GW terrain, which was a bit foreign to me after playing on, Josh's sort of hybrid for a while. So I set up my first test game against the one and only Brian, and as I was setting up the terrain, I was just thinking, what the fuck is this shit? For people who do not play Games Workshop terrain, you usually have one nook you can hide in. Anywhere else is certain death if they have a gun. And that, plays a huge part when it comes to writing your list and analysing the meta and, deciding what tech pieces you add in and just how you approach your games and your scoring. So I had a 6-round GT to prepare for, and I hadn't played singles since Masters in December, and that was a very different meta. That was, 5 codexes ago. Bully Boys or Orcs are out in force at the moment with their new codex. There's a couple of new lists that are popping up in top 5s around the world, and some of those have come down under. So I got to play against the one and only Wolfjail, the Trip Thunderwolf Stormlance list, piloted by Big Jordan from Team Australia, the lovely gentleman who took out first place, so congratulations to him. And preparing for the event, I was, had a couple of Retaliation Cadre lists written up, had a couple of Montcar lists written up, and I was sort of sitting there thinking there's definitely something in Crute. There's definitely a singles list that will always have a potential to score, but always have the potential to push for more. So I took maybe 5 or 6 renditions of tweaking this list, and essentially ended up on 2 big Crute blobs, your assortment of characters to make them work. 3 units of Hounds, 3 units of Stealth Suits, 3 Riptides, and 2 Hammerheads. So it's basically the 3 Riptides, 2 Hammerheads, supporting 700 points of good scoring Crute screens. And for a list that got no test games before I got on the plane and went over, it went pretty well with a 5-1 showing. And I'd say the only loss that I went down to was Jordan, who took out the event. And funny enough, it was on priority targets, where your home objectives only worth 2 points, and I went second. So the game gets completely flipped if the first turn roll was on the other foot, because the crew do exactly what the wolves do, and they just trap you in the deployment zone.
And was there just to link the two conversations together, mate? In that, was there a bit of a pushback for you at the mid to end game?
Yeah, so I set it up to push back out turn 3 after my 2 road bumps of Groot were dead. Unfortunately, the combat in his turn leading to my turn 3 push out, I had a Riptide die and explode. And for anyone who has seen a Riptide explode, they explode for D6 in 10th edition, which don't understand why. I thought we passed this for Devilfish exploding for D6 last edition. So they changed Devilfish back to D3, and Riptides are up to D6. So this thing went nuclear in my deployment zone and killed 2 of my units that were going to do actions and another unit that was on my primary. So I ended up getting a 0 for primary on the turn 3, and basically tripped at the starting line for my push turns, which was not great.
So the secrets wouldn't have been that useful in any case.
Oh no, definitely not.
Well, so there are occasionally, as WCC last year kind of showed, there are some matchups where you just have to hope you go first. Like, I remember it's the Polish game, I think, against US, maybe against England. It was on stream, and the Orc player was against Thousand Suns, and he goes, well, I'm going to hope to go first, deploying the line, turn 1 war, and off I go, so to speak. And he got first turn and just penned him back and just kept him enough to, I think he got a small win, but it's a tactic. It is a valid tactic, and it has been since fucking second ed, pretty much.
Yeah, like some of the example you gave before, where you front load all your points and then you just hope you score enough before you get tabled. Like, that's a very viable strategy into some lists that don't have a good Overwatch, or they don't fly, or they don't have like a reactive charge move, like a blood surge like Core Berserkers. If you can just sit an inch away with a shit screen that you don't care about dying, that keeps them in an deployment zone, then that's the best trade in the world.
Yeah, I mean, you were on my team when I did that with the Vanguard Gene Stealers. Remember, I ran the triple big Gene Stealer bricks, and I won or drew against both Dave Kerr and Alex, Terracin. And I got like 11 or 12 win, or maybe it was a 10. I can't remember the exact score, but I just remember that was my tactic. It's like, cool, I'm going first. You're not leaving your deployment zone until turn 4. And that pretty much happened. That was exactly how our game went. And I remember against Kerr, I was almost tabled, but I'd already scored enough and had made it so that his kind of chances to get secondaries were minimized as much as possible, so that when he started actually pushing back and eventually tabling me, well, getting as close as possible to tabling me, he was already too far behind. That was literally that list.
Yeah, and that play style takes a bit of practice, and it takes a lot of composure, because you have to be okay to lose like multiple units a turn, but you have to have them in the right spot where you don't care about losing them. So you got to be conscious that you're going to lose units, but you got to lose them in the right spots.
Yeah.
And if you don't get that right one turn, and someone breaks out of their deployment zone, then you've wasted a couple of turns and a bunch of resources for an objective that has ultimately failed.
Yep.
That's where games start to run away from you.
100%. And so your tower can kind of do the same thing, but it's like pinning it in, but then the damage is not coming from the unit that's pinning him in. The damage is coming from behind that unit, yeah?
Yeah, so it's kind of like the only thing I can sort of link it up to is kind of like a double-edged sword, but in a good way, where it's like a bit of a double stat check of, the hordes of Kroot that are 5-up inverter shooting, 6-up feel no pain. If they kill someone in combat, it goes to a 5-up feel no pain, which happens like every game because there'll be a little chaff, 5-man unit on an objective, and they'll go shoot and charge them and typically kill them just with volume of attacks and a couple of little tech pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So you got like the stat check of resilient scoring hordes that do a bit of quality volume, backed up by like high toughness, good save, vehicle monsters that are mobile and shoot pretty hard. So you kind of have to worry about both aspects of the stat check, and then counter to some of the other lists that lean into the same sort of horde style is you can't just move willy nilly. You have to respect the shooting of the tower. My list had SMS on essentially all my towers, all my Riptides, all my Hammerheads had smart missiles, which came in super handy when I played against a Drukhari player, and I just peppered all the Scourges and I killed 1 or 2 from each unit.
Yep.
So that my hounds could advance and charge over, and then my hounds hitting on 2s because they're wounded, and it's 15 strength 3 hitting on 2s. That's enough to kill 3 to 4 Scourges.
Mate, you are singing to the fucking choir. That's right.
Yep.
Everyone, you see, Duck agrees with me. Anyone else suggesting otherwise? You're all a bunch of... Yeah, that's right, Chris.
So the only reason, the caveat of why I didn't really care too much about Scourges, is they can shoot like Dark Lancers and Heat Lancers at you all day, because I get a save from them. So I don't care. Like I get a 5-up save on the Hammerheads when they're in cover, which they'll usually get the cover save, or I got 4-up Imber on the Riptides. But if it was like Haywire Blasters, then it's a different story. Then I probably need to put a couple more resources in, like tagging those Scourges or going and killing them with something a bit more reliable.
Right, you would just... They get 1 turn of shooting before you put every SMS into it.
Yeah, they might get a turn.
No, well, they would reserve. Like, against you, I would just reserve all 3 units. Like, I wouldn't deploy any of them. And so then...
the problem when you do that, there's so much chaff and there's so much rubbish like left over in the tower. You got 3 units of hounds that are throwaways, you got a 10-man crew that's a throwaway, you got stealth suits that anchor corners, you got a deep struck denial character that scouts and moves fast. So with that tactic, by keeping 1 or all of them off the table, then all I could do is just screen in the right places, and I'd have to worry about them shooting essentially 0 times.
Yep.
Instead of once.
No. You're singing to the choir, mate. Again, I agree. Scourges are shit. Again, Walduck is correct. Scourges are shit. Not just me.
Scourges. Scourges are a trap.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I like that idea. Like, one of the things about when I've done coaching and shit, I can't speak English anymore. When I've done coaching before, it's the big problem with elite armies or like Death Stars and things like that, which you're trying to ask your units to do too many things, right? And so generally, armies that like maybe have like 2 big bricks of Terminators, they are unkillable, and put out tons and tons of damage. They're usually backed up by a whole bunch of chaff who do the actions and hold objectives and things like that. Now, if your opponent is even, half a brain, which is, we'll say, me right now, you just have to kill all the chaff, or focus fire all the chaff, ignore the big stuff, feed the big stuff, movement block it, or just feed it, little stuff that you don't care if it dies, and you will eventually win that game, just by doing that. You know what I mean? Like it, because let's say they don't pick fix, they pick tactical. They go, all right, cool. Oh, what's my tactical? Deploy homers. Okay, well, I don't have any more troops other than my 2 big bricks. I guess I'm going to walk towards the middle and press a button. All my practice games in the last 3 weeks, I've mainly been playing against like people with like big bricks of wraiths or a big Space Marine unit in the middle or something like that, and that's kind of how it's ended. It's like, all right, you have nothing else except for the 2 big bricks that I can't kill, but you can't score anymore because that that 1 big Wraith unit wants to hold that objective while kill the thing that's shooting it, and also do this, secondary. You can do at most 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I feel like those sort of, those tough brick archetypes would tend to select fixed, but if you rock up to the table and Chaos Marines might be a good example with the Iron Warriors detachment being relatively tough, and people talking about turning bricks in that. If you rock up to the table and someone has that defensive tough archetype of a list and they go tactical, then your instant game plan is kill everything but the bricks.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because maybe 1 in 3 cards they'll be able to score, maybe 2 out of 3 cards if they get a nice favourable draw. But like reminding when if you end up drawing deploy teleport homers and you want to do it in the middle, that unit's doing it and can't even charge. Like they just they do nothing.
But if they go fixed, and against my Dark Elder, they could possibly go bring it down and assassinate and just say, I'm going to go kill everything as much as possible. But pretending it's not me, like if they're going to go fixed, what are they naturally going to do? They're going to deploy, cleanse, something like that.
Yeah, deploy and cleanse is good. Maybe even because of the size of those units, like a 10 Terminators, for example, some of them, having banners or a way to boost their OC, because they put so much OC on objectives. Storm Hostile is actually not a bad pick.
Yeah, but you can't pick Storm for non-tactical, like for your fixed. Storm is not a pickable one.
Well, never mind.
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to be a smart. It's just like otherwise I'd pick that fucking every single day. It's the easiest ones. Like I'm MSU and I move 14 inches plus then jump out 3 and charge. I'm picking Storm Hostile. Yeah, I just think it just projects. Sorry to bring that back, and I wasn't trying to be an idiot. Then, if they picked, say cleanse and deploy, the mission, like my game plan wouldn't change. It's like I can't kill this brick. All right, cool. But I can kill all your MSU so that the brick can only do the secondary. And if the brick's not doing the secondary and it's killing me or tabling me, I'm still going to win the game because I'll get 30 out of 40 secondaries. I'll get 30 out of 40 primary. All right, so I'll get my 60. You'll get say 50 out of primary, but 0 in secondaries, or like 5 points in secondaries. So I'll get an 11-point win. That literally happened on the tournament. Like this, what I'm talking about is not. This is not theoretical. This is literally what happens. Is my 10-point draw against the reddest red that I could ever read. It was triple Catan, double Wraith Brick. I can't win that game. It was only because the gentleman I played against, he's a bit newer to the competitive scene, and in my mind, I played my absolute arse off, and I just killed anything else that I could actually kill. I don't think I even killed a Catan, but that's right. I managed to kill one of the Catans with, and it was turn 4, and I used everything else in my army to kill this one thing. But his other Catans were either pressing buttons and saying, "Oh, well, I gotta stand on this objective because I have all my chaff is gone." And even then, I only just got a draw. It was a winning side of the draw, and in a singles event, I would get the win. But like my game plan doesn't change. Even if you go fixed or if you go tactical with that type of list, I'm killing chaff and making it because your big bricks are trying to do too many things at once. Your Catan is trying to do damage while also holding objectives and doing the secondaries, just because your opponent kills all the other shit. And I'll bring this to a point because I do understand I'm rambling a little bit here. The point is, with my Gene Stealer list, the only reason, not the only, but one of the big reasons that list could still work was that outside of getting, remember I said you're allowed 2 out of 3. You can hold an objective You can kill, and you can do secondaries. You can't do all three. You can only do 2 out of 3 at most. Generally, you generally only do 1 reasonably well. You can maybe do 2 if you build your list there. You can't do all 3 because there's so much play around that. My Gene Stealer list could kill and be an objective. Most melee lists, like what you were saying, like the kind of Gel Keeper list, that's what they can do. They can pin you in, be on the objective, try and tank your primary, and hopefully kill. It can't also then do the secondaries, like any of the missions. And again, outside of Storm or style objective or capture any outposts or things like that, and you just have to really hope that you can get those draws. And I noticed that with my Gene Stealer list, and the Biovores and kind of Gargoyles and things like that were the only thing that kind of kept me in there, because I spawn a spawn mine. All right, cool. There's my behind. Gargoyles can shoot and move after deep striking. All right, cool. I've stolen a bunch of objectives, so to keep your primary low after I've almost completely been tabled. I can see that these Space Wolf lists, Orcs, like I played against Alex with his Orcs, these lists do that very, very similar. But their units are all trying to do the same thing. And they don't really have, this is the kind of Tyranid thing, they don't have Gargoyles, they don't have spawn mines. Now, and the coaching I've been doing with Ali, and I know he listens, so we've gone like the Necron version of the Gargoyles, which are the bikes that shoot and scoot. And then he runs a detachment where you're allowed to 3-inch drop. So he's got the big bricks, but then he's also got a big chunk of his army in nothing but secondary stuff, and then he just protects the crap out of them. And his game, like I haven't been able to beat him. Well, I think I got a draw, the winning side of a draw just recently. But the point is, like, that's so difficult to beat now. Like, if you just keep practicing that, where you're not asking for your big bricks to do multiple things. All right, and I'm doing one final point, and then I really want to hear your thoughts on this. What I like about your list, at least the way you're describing it, is your damage dealers are not, they can be the Kroot, but they're not actually the Kroot. The Kroot are there to do the pin you in, steal your objectives, protect the actual damage dealers, and the damage dealers are still going to be there after the pin is done. And that's a big difference between your list and, like the Tyranid Gene Stealer list, which was the pin unit was the damage dealing unit. It's the same with the Orcs and with the Space Wolves, even with World Eaters. The pin unit is the damage dealing. Whereas your list is, I like it. Like I like the concept. I think there's something absolutely in there. I mean, I know there is. Otherwise, you wouldn't have run it. But splitting the idea, or splitting the roles, and saying this unit is pinning, this unit is doing missions and doing stuff to protect the actual damage dealer, and then once they die, which they inevitably will, you're still in a fantastic spot because you still got your damage, and now they can't deal with it because they're trying to catch back up. They're trying to stand on this objective, press this button, and kill you, but they can't do that.
And the crew come back.
Cherry on top, but yes. Okay, so look, I just did a little thesis that was inspired by you and kind of linking stuff I've talked about before about kind of the Death Stars and all the bricks and where they try to do too much. And I've had opponents and that or people I've been coaching where they get frustrated because there's like, but how did you win the game? You have nothing left. And it's like, yes, but this unit's trying to do 7 different things at one time and it can't. And so I'm just playing on that.
Just because it's a race to 100 points and I'm not getting there to the end, but I've got my 100 points by turn 4. Doesn't mean I lose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's exactly it. That was Necrons, Ninth Ed Necrons in essence. Remember, like that's what Liam played, for WTC or
Yeah.
ETC. Oh no, WTC. Fuck, I correct myself. Yeah, that was literally it. It was like I'm going to get 140 points by the end of the game. Like I've got my 100 by turn 3. What are you going to do about it? Anyway,
Yeah,
what do you
that
think?
was bad.
Is what I kind of summarized? Is that kind of what you're going with your actual list?
100%. There's big dogs in the singles meta. Like with bully boys being prevalent, and green tide with multiple hordes of orcs. Those sort of things. They're a perfect example because outside of the war, they're actually not that scary. And in the war, they only got they have 2 turns of war when they're bully boys, but because they call it at the start of the turn, you get information for the whole rest of the turn, so you know when an effect's popped, and all you need to do is just roadblock them until the war's gone, and then they're essentially just like your Meganobs are just armor contempt terminators without a nimbo, because they lose the 4-up Fiona Pain, and then they become not very durable at all.
Mm-hmm.
So those sort of guys, those sort of lists, if you can bog down and roadblock the big units and kill the Storm Boys, kill the Gretchen, and not get tabled doing that part of it, then your game plan is sitting pretty. You're gonna end up making those blobs do stuff that they don't want to do, like either move to a corner for investigate, or move to an objective off the middle, off to a side to do a cleanse. That's when you start to sort of gain a bit of momentum and push the points on them and push them into places they don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So against those bigger Death Star or archetype of resilient units, that's 100% the way to go. Like T-Suns is a good example. If you can ignore Magnus and kill 15 of the rubrics before turn 3, then that T-Sun player is probably going to lose the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you need to really break down your matchups with what strength you bring and what weakness that sort of highlights in your opponent's list. And if you can press that button hard enough at the right time, you'll make them do some tough decisions that is probably going to force a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I agree. All right, so take us through the rest of the event, mate.
So played a good spread of lists. So at Necrons, Drakari, Grey Knights, Space Wolves, Imperial Knights, and then back to Necrons again to round out the event. Finished on 475 out of 600 points. That was including a 39-point win in round 3, so a super low scoring game. I had 4 other results, above the 90s. So the list was just passively scoring. And stupid me also played Deploy Teleport Homers as 2 points in the middle, not 3. So robbed myself a point almost every turn over 6 games. I could probably add another 30 odd points into that score.
You silly boy.
I was like, I'd never played fixed before this event, so I'd have a read into it, like, how does this fixed stuff work? Usually Tau just draws cards and then scores points. I'll work out killing people after that. So it was definitely a bit of a learning curve, but I think playing it makes you a better Tau player. Weirdly enough, playing Kroot makes you better at playing Tau. You get a bit more of the movement fundamentals kind of honed in, get a bit more blocking, and when you come back to a list like Modkar or Kaon or a more standard traditional Tau detachment, I think you'll use your blocking resources a bit better and really push them to the limits of what they can and can't do. But in the Kroot detachment specifically, it is focused 100% around the Kroot, and I think that's the best part of it, because you're just juicing up your screens and your scorers as you said, the crew don't actually do that much damage unless you're like a T3, T4 body with like a 4-up save. So like an elf body, a scout, like a Gretchen, or even like a shit save like an orc, the crew really punch onto them pretty well, and they trade up pretty hard, with the detachment getting +1 to hit as soon as your opponent's below starting strength. It kind of makes them almost Space Marines in combat, because then they go to hitting on 3s with their strength 4 rapid fire gun, and then hitting on 2s in combat with their 2 strength 4 attacks. One of the 20-man blobs gets sustained hits on 5s, the other gets sustained hits on 6s. So just the ability to convert attacks was just huge.
Are their melee is strength 4 or 5?
Strength 4. The characters are strength 5.
Okay, yeah.
The flesh shaper that gives the unit the sustained hits and the Feel No Pain, he is like strength 5 -1 twin linked with 5 attacks with like sustained 5, so he can actually punch out a fair few attacks. Your Lone Spear, the crew dude riding the lizard, he gives you full reroll to hit as soon as he hits someone with his shots. And his shots are nothing to sneeze at. It's 10-2-2 blast. So it's half times I put him over to a spot to just block the reroll to hits, and roll 3 or 4 shots, and he ended up killing half a unit just by himself. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I don't really need the reroll hits anymore because you're kind of half dead. When you got your activations right, the tower would shoot something first, hurt it, then the crew would come over the top because then they get their benefits. It was super strong. I had an Ethereal in the list to help with some CP generation because I knew that I'd be playing fixed a little bit more than tactical. Actually, I didn't play tactical at all through the whole 6 rounds. So having the Ethereal there for the extra CP was quite helpful, because almost every game there would be like a bait charge. So everyone wants to go in and they want to charge. They want to tag your hammerheads to stop them shooting, or they want to like tag your crew or block your crew off. But having the CP almost always there to heroic was huge. Like in my last game when I played against Necron, triple Wraith unit, triple Doomstalkers, and some Scarabs, which is a good list. It's a good singles list getting around. As soon as Wraiths popped out and charged to like a screen of Fast Stalkers, the other unit of crew behind them, heroic intervened and made their 6-inch heroic charge, but piled back onto a middle objective to stop someone doing a cleanse, and then fall back, shoot and charge for a CP to pop through, tag something else and pile onto a home objective. Was crazy. Like the extra movement you get from it to then slingshot out with essentially no penalty. You just got to pay a CP to come back in and do whatever you like.
Yeah. Are the brute fight first?
No, that's the only thing they're missing.
I was going to say, just imagine that, what you just described. Like, you already picked it up in my list. That's what my big court brick does. It's like, oh, look at that. Heroic slingshot out the back of it, tags an objective or something like that. But I also have fight first.
Yeah, I mean, there was 2 games where I did a big heroics where your opponent goes into the turn thinking, oh, I'm going to move here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to charge that, I'm going to shoot that unit, and your opponent's thinking at the end of their turn, when you come in to score, they'll be thinking, all right, Duck's going to be on a 5 for primary, so I'm going to contest here and I'm going to kill that unit. Then all of a sudden, crew to heroic where you didn't think they would. Sometimes you don't think crew are going to heroic into like a unit of 5 wraiths, but 5 wraiths don't kill enough of the 20-man brick. So all of a sudden you've gone in thinking that Duck's going to have a 5 in his turn 2, but all of a sudden he's put a 15 point down on turn 2, and that's where the snowball sort of starts.
And also, it's not just the 15. It's
gets
also
that.
Stopped you doing maybe a secondary or something like that, like if you're doing a cleanse.
Yeah. Yeah, huge.
That flips
the
like that it wouldn't necessarily trigger a person, but that would like they would go into it as like, yep, cool, I'm gonna lock up this game right now, and then all of a sudden the world ends, so to speak. Their floor drops from them, and it's like, oh fuck, I've actually lost this. Hey, Captain, yeah, that 15,
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually an 8.
Like, hey, I done fucked up because I forgot about a 2CB stratagem. Yeah, it can be huge.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the list is great. For a first run, it is obviously really good. It was suited to a Games Workshop format where you could get a little bit easier firing lanes, which is why I sort of went 3 Riptides, 2 Hammerheads.
Mm-hmm.
If I was bringing it back to like a WTC style or like UK TC style terrain, I'd probably get a Breacher Fish unit in there just for like that second layer to come over the top and pile a bit more sort of quality shooting in the spots you need it.
Mm-hmm.
The firing lines are a bit tighter on those terrain maps, so I'd probably cut the Hammerheads out at that point. But I think the 3 Riptides are like a staple at 180 points, despite not getting any sort of buff from the detachment. They just bring an element that recruit just really need. The toughness, the fall back and shoot, the ignoring penalties to hit. When you come into lists that have a pretty strong leaning on a -1 to hit, or tagging stuff to reduce its damage, essentially the whole army doesn't care, and that can take a lot of teeth out of some people's matchups.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Would you ever, in your preparation, do you think, because you were playing for, in your mind, an actual, I won't say an actual reason, and it kind of links to that kind of the fishing for events idea that I had, which was, like, why pick certain lists, certain events to go to, or just any event over sitting at home and, picking your nose. And from your point of view, you kind of started your bit of intro, which is you picked this event out of all the events because there was a reason for it, in essence, yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
So, in retrospect, then, because there was an actual reason, we'll say, there was a clear carrot that you wanted to go. Would you have put in a bit more prep and or effort in your prep to not screw yourself with deploy on 2 points rather than 3, like really understand that element of it, do any last minute tweaks about the terrain or the your list construction, or you know what I mean, like would you have done more prep because there was a reason for the event rather than just a local event that you were just going to have a game?
For this, I already did more prep than I would for like a Josh's team event.
Mm-hmm.
I probably did as much as I could have. I would have loved to at least get one game in there. I had like a lone piranha that probably is a bit of fat that could have been trimmed off. I had like a little 10-man unit of Groot that probably could have been trimmed off. That what I thought they'd be used for is sitting around the back, stick an objective, keep your screens intact. But they kind of weren't that. They were kind of like the first level behind the fast stalkers as like a roadblock, and they'd kind of just die, or they'd run out and they'd threaten to stick you an objective off the scout, and they sort of didn't bring the value that I thought. So there was a couple of small redundancies in the list that 1 or 2 test games would have highlighted that to me. But yeah, in saying that, I still did more prep for this than any other event. I was reading through the Groot attachment and putting one and one together and seeing what combos would be best, and lining up, and actually having to set up a couple of GW terrain tables to understand where your deployment zone is and what lines of shooting you'd get. If I had a little bit more prep time, that probably would have cut some of the redundancies out of the list. What they would have been, I don't know, because I didn't get a chance to go that far. I watched a couple of Kyle Grundy's videos. He came 4th in a big UK like 200 player GT with a similar list, which is probably in between my list I took on GW format and the list I settled on if I was going to take it to like a WTC format. So after watching his content on YouTube, after coming up with my draft list, I knew I was sort of going in the right direction, and I took a lot of his takeaways from his event and sort of reapplied them to my list because if I can't get the on the ground experience myself, I'll take it from another player who's done well. But I always sort of filter out some of the local meta obscurities or the terrain obscurities that would sort of tweak or would impact how it would play in our local meta. So like he had a breach of fish and then 2 units of pathfinders in his list, and like a breach of fish and pathfinders would just get shot to absolute shit on GW terrain, and I'd find that I'd be competing for angles of either hiding or shooting angles, or with the same style of units. They trying to fit a devilfish in amongst like the 2 hammerheads and 3 riptides. They actually take up a fair bit of real estate in your deployment zone, especially when it comes to going around walls and getting angles. I thought a breach of fish and some other stuff sprinkled around might just get in the way. So sort of keep your resources separated, but within arm's length of each other, and it worked.
Yeah, it's interesting that, like for me, and we've talked about this before, but for me, prep is not just about list construction and thinking about the list, but it's also, I have to have practice. Like every game for me, outside of big events, and even then, I take stuff from that, but every game is just my continual practice, in essence, of understanding, we'll say, the game or my list better, in essence. So preparation for me, I don't feel like I have prepped unless I've had, over the previous month, at least 10 games. When I switched from Tyranids to Dark Elder, and I didn't feel like I was actually playing Dark Elder until it was about 10 games in. Like that, you know what I mean? Like I'm not the type of person who can just switch between my factions and be just as proficient in that kind of round, in that first game, as I would be, say, 10 games in.
I mean, really, that's why Australia and Queensland specifically, we have the faction masteries where if you see like one of the guys sign up for an event, 9 out of 10 times you can typically pick the faction play, because everyone sort of stays within 1 to 2 factions, becomes masters of it, and I think once you're a bit of a faction master, you don't really need to jump to other armies. You can sort of just get the most out of what you got, and with the meta being a little bit healthier now than it was sort of 6 months ago, at least half the codexes have a chance of going X1 and being in the top 5 or so, competing for the gold. I think now more than ever is definitely the time to really own your craft and be a faction master.
Yeah, I agree. Excellent. Alrighty, so let me have a look at my lovely little notes here. Is there anything else that you would focus on when looking for events to actually attend or not? Or any like X factor or anything like that? Just like, ooh, yeah, okay, I will actually attend this thing.
I mean, you have to have a clear goal in mind. Like, I attended this event purely for the sake of going to try and earn a ticket. No other real reason outside of that. Because, we're spoiled for events here in Queensland where we don't need to go to other states. And, it's a bit of a tipping of the hat to our tourney organisers here in southeast Queensland. We got, 5 or 6 clubs, and our calendar's packed for the rest of the year. Really, the selection of events is quite easy for us. It's, do we want to play teams with our friends, or do we want to play teams with our friends? Sometimes you might want to go play a singles. some people might want to be playing singles in Queensland because they might want to get a Masters invite and they might want to go for Queensland Master for 2024.
Mm-hmm.
That's, each different person's sort of prerogative, and whatever they want to do is what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know for me, when I traveled a lot, like 2022, like when we did WTC, that year and the end bit of 2021, I did so much traveling interstate. I think I did like 7 interstate events that year, and a lot of it for me was, in essence, it was training for WTC, but it was me pushing myself to make sure I was not missing things, right? Because as I was saying, I practice by actually practicing, like playing games. Sorry, I practice by practicing. I practice by playing games. Like that's my prep is playing games. I will naturally think about games and lists and things like that, but I almost, it's the designer in me. It's like, in essence, what my job has been for the 18 years. Is like I try not to just live in my head. I actually test things out. In the best element of design is, in essence, taking it to the user and actually seeing, okay, does this actually work? And I can't not do that. Like I need to actually put a list on the table and just play 2 turns even, but it doesn't make a difference. I have to test it. And the 2022, so those multiple tournaments, I just went to anything that looked interesting. Like maybe I had some friends in the area, or I'd promised like the event in Ballarat. I promised the organizer, and he came and picked me up from the airport, and we had a grand old time. That was me, because I had already tested at all the Queensland events. I needed to test outside our meta, yeah, to make sure I wasn't missing something. I want to go back to my statement, which is like, am I missing something? Am I just in my little bubble, echo chamber, where I think I'm awesome and my list works? Let's take it, because I really, really, really want to test this out, stress test it. Let's take this, off to Ballarat. Let's take this to Melbourne. Let's take this to Sydney, and see if this actually works. And it was great. Like that's why I would travel for an event. Now, because I didn't do any big events this year, and we were kind of wrapping up last year, I haven't traveled for an event. And yes, we're spoiled for choice here in South East Queensland, and there hasn't been the big need for it. But if I was prepping for WTC, let's say this year's WTC, if I was prepping for that, I personally, and I'm passing judgment on people who aren't doing this, but I personally would be traveling to events outside my meta to stress test the absolute crap out of my list. Again, some of the stuff that you and I talk about is coming from, because both our approaches is different. Your approach is different to mine. That's why I'm kind of highlighting it. It's not good or bad. We both did really well in WGC, and our approaches have been successful over many, many years in that competitive environment. I just want to put it out there. Like, I want to kind of make sure that people are aware of different ways of kind of learning, of actually mastering or becoming really good, etc. And not just saying, yep, cool, I read through my codex a couple of times, I'm good to go. Now, some people might be able to do that. Fuck. Liam and Eric, they don't have to look at their codex. They'll just go, yeah, just you write me the list, and I'll still win, fucking games with it. And it's like, I'm not jealous, but I'm just like, I'm in awe at sometimes their ability. I cannot do that, but I can get to the same level of, competitiveness or gamemanship as them, but I do it in different ways because it's just, I don't know how my brain works. So I just wanted to kind of
I,
put that out there.
yeah, I think as a bare minimum, like I can't just do it off a list. Like I have to see the models like either on a tray together or like on a table. Sometimes you write a list and it looks good, but then you get to the table and you haven't even finished deploying, and you're like, oh, okay, I see a fundamental problem already, and that becomes a waste of time. And I got young kids, I can't be wasting a whole game's worth of testing when I could have just put it on a tray and saw an issue before we got to that. I like baseline of prep is I need to see the models together collectively in a tray.
So you're probably like more visualizing. I guess that's what kind of what you're saying. It's like I need to see the map. That's what I'm just kind of repeating what I heard you say. Is like I need to see the map. I need to see the terrain. I need to see my army, and then I can kind of visualize how it plays, and then I can see gaps through it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. You know, you could be like, oh, I'm going to put 50 breacher fish and 3 riptides on the table, which is on paper a really good core of a list. You get to a table and you realise you can't hide all 8 of those units, and 1 or 2 of them is going to get shot turn 1. Then maybe it's worth cutting back to 3. You know, you got the potential to put 5 units of breacher fish in, but 3 are going to stay safe. Then you might as well just take 3 and put those excess points into something else that is going to score you points. So just because the list looks good on paper doesn't always translate, onto the table.
Yeah.
And I don't know that until I see it physically on the table.
And I know we keep making the meme in our own chats about Greek Tower, but and I can quickly explain it later of what that means. But could the just maximizing the bodies and just saying, okay, look, I'll lose 1 or 2 of these vehicles, and just ignoring the hiding ability. Like, so what I'm getting at is, on the GW terrains, you're trying to lower your footprint while still being kind of effective. Could you not just say, fuck it, I'm going, 12 boats in a sense. You can't kill all of us. Yeah, like that concept is just absolutely overwhelming, and saying, I have every, vehicle in this book. I'm stat checking you.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a stat check, but it's also like a sort of mono-dimensional stat check. It's a toughness, toughness save combination stat check, where I thought if you sort of just equalize them half, the toughness save, half the numbers and pain in the ass version, and you combine them into the same list, then you probably get a good all-comers list. If it was teams, you'd probably lean one side or the other, but for singles, you probably, you'd want to find that nice balance in the middle.
Yeah, because
that's why I came to that.
It's singles. That's why I keep reminding myself. Because in
Yeah.
teams, there might be 1 or 2 lists that can stuff you up, and you just throw them as red and just say, yep.
Exactly. Like, imagine if you went all out, sort of, vehicle toughness stat check, and round 1 you played against a Drakari list, and he decided he had 3 units of Haywires, and Haywires on, Talos and Lance bloody Ravs. All of a sudden, your stat check is no longer checking, and you're in a bit of trouble.
Oh, mate,
And
forget the Lancers. Yeah, you got Talos with a couple of Haywires. You got the 3 Scourges with Haywires, and then you put in Harlequins with the bikes with the Haywires as well.
Haywires, yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
then you sort of
there's five boats dead straight away.
You're like, we're both skewing, but your skew's better than my skew, and that's not something you want to come across in singles. That's like a list building fundamental you want to tackle before you get to the tables.
Yeah, and what is funny though is that list, I'm 99% sure is terrible, because the moment they play against fucking I don't know, world eaters, they just laugh in corn and punch you in the head.
You say that though, but like all the Haywire is like 3 damage. It might have a shit AP, but it's 3 damage on like a lot of it. So,
Yeah, but it's only
you
strength
know,
3 or strength 4, something like that. It's not very high strength. It's no, I'm not disagreeing with you. Like, yes, they're damage 3, AP 1. I'm 99% sure they're strength 3. Because I thought they were strength 4 and they got pulled up on that. And I was like, oh, okay. I actually got fucked up on that. Let me just quickly check. But
you're going to take that rhino to Pound Town. That's about it.
yeah, pretty much. It's like, well, I can't wound anything, but that rhino, guess what? It's dead. Yeah, strength 3.
that
Strength 3.
that one rhino's looking down the barrel of about 40 damage.
Yeah. Strength 3, AP 1, 3 damage with dev wounds. Like, awesome. And
See, I think you might be surprised. Get a couple of dev wound pop offs, then you're pushing 3 damage through on people. You don't really care about their AP and strength. It's kind of like the background premise of why Riptides work. Their gun's only strength 8 cap, strength 9 in the retaliation if you're in the right circumstances. But the difference between strength and 8 and 9 doesn't mean much when you're shooting at like T11 Stans or like T10 Rhinos or whatever. So you might find that strength breakpoint might not be as big of an issue that you might originally sort of hypothesize. But you also don't want to test it by only taking haywire guns and struggling to kill Terminators.
yeah. Look, I'm not going to be jumping into any singles with nothing but haywire anytime soon. I think I'd have to have
That
balls of like iron before I do that.
Well, that segues us nicely into our next and last bit. What's next for you in 40k? What's next on the Simon radar?
So tomorrow and next Friday, just some games with mates, and then no 40k at all for a month and like an extra week, like 5 weeks.
See, if this was last year, Simon would be hitting every tournament on the East Coast from Brisbane North.
Pretty much. 2021, 2022, and even the beginning of 2023, I was milking as much 40k as I could. Then 10th comes and just freight train.
That milk swiftly turns into yogurt, and
that's right, juicy sour yogurt. Yeah, so I will be doing. So we've already got the prep for the 6-man. Ooh, 6-man. I love. I'm going to pretend. I'm pretending that Josh listens to our podcast episode. Remember where we talked about the difference between 5, 6, and 7, and trying to work out where the right breakpoint is. I'm pretending that he actually listened, or someone listened and talked to him about it, because he's moved it from a 5-man team to 6-man in August. So that's actually the next bit of 40k that we're going to be doing. 6-man events. I am keen. I want to feel the difference because we haven't really done 6-man here in Southeast Queensland. It's been 4-man, then 5 because 4 are just inherently worse, and 8. But we haven't really delved into 6-man.
Yes, I'm keen to see how that goes and what sort of team dynamics it brings in. The list changes. By August when that comes up, we'll have another couple of books come out. We should have GC Occult and Sisters coming in the next, hopefully within a month. And then you might get a second round of codexes end of July. It might slip in before the August event. But we also have a balanced starter slate coming as well.
Yeah, they're secrets.
End of June. Yeah, that'll be coming in, and that'll be in play for the August event, I would say.
Yeah. So when I get back from holidays, I'm going to be diving headfirst into secrets, doing some prac for the team event, and I think it'll be really good. Like my first tournament back will be the 6-man, and we'll have secrets, and we'll have a bit to talk about. I think.
What a time to be alive!
Yeah. Like I mean, it is good. Like I mean, I've been playing this game 26 years. It is disheartening, you know, that something you've invested a large portion of your time, effort, money, brain power, life, in essence, into, that you have historically done well at, to actually done fantastic at, and then you almost kind of see it. It's not that it's gotten worse. Like and I want to make it clear, because we're getting more numbers now than we did even during ninth. It's just gotten different, I guess, and different doesn't always have to be worse, but from your point of view, so my point of view, that difference isn't better. Now, other people have their own opinions, and the market, in essence, is saying, no, Simon, you're wrong. Okay, that's cool. I put that to the side. I do like that they're making changes that's still apparently going to be good for the market, but bring me back into the fold, so to speak. And that I actually think is really good. That's the healthy elements, you know. Bringing out the Drukhari detachment got me back into it. Bringing these changes back in to make it so the games aren't becoming just the same stale bullshit, and it means that the TOs can actually flex a little bit and still have competitive games. And their communication is still really good. They're kind of paying attention to the meta, and talking about what they're focusing on, and that kind of transparency, the best it's ever been. So all of these things are really good from my point of view, like almost like that kind of mental health type point of view that Vander and I have been talking about, to not just be so despondent about something that you've invested so much of your time in that you felt not so good about.
Yeah, and the first 6 to 12 months of any sort of new edition, or especially Index Hammer, we went through it in, what was it, 8th when it turned to indexes, or 6th when they did a full index.
Yeah, the most recent one.
It's a bit of,
but yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shit show for the first sort of 6 to 12 months. I think this edition it's been, more towards the 12 months, because we had issues with Eldar needing, multiple rounds of nerfs, and chaos, and all these sort of overcooked books and undercooked codexes that were just not performing. So now the fields sort of become a bit more tight, and the disparities between your top and the bottom is not a 20% difference in win rate anymore. I think now, like, this new change into the Pariah Nexus I think this is when 10th is really going to hit its stride. And I think going forward, the event numbers are going to do nothing but go up. So, very excited to see what we have for the rest of the year.
I too am. I'm looking forward to it, which is good. It's a good place to be. Awesome. All right, Buck. You're a great marketer. Do you want to wrap us up and head off to the world?
Fly south for migration. If you're still with us, I'd like to say a big thank you for putting up with Simon and I shit talk. Hopefully you got some form of knowledge or something you can take away and put into practice into your games, hopefully make you a better 40k player. If not, then sorry, get better. Sucks to suck. I would really appreciate it if you could share amongst your friends, give us a quick little like, subscribe, and stay up to date with our sort of once a month podcast that Simon and I get around to doing. And if you see us at events, come up, say hi, shake our hand. We don't buy it. Well, I don't buy it. Simon might buy it. He's got more kids than I do. Don't know what you teach your kids, but yeah.
Excellent, mate. Thank you for the great wrap up. All right, guys. Catch you later.